All right, welcome everyone. It is Julie here with TipRanks. Today I had the pleasure of being joined by Kaan Terzioglu from VEON. Kaan, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you for having me, Julie. Great pleasure to be
Abs-
here.
So VEON is a global digital operator offering converged connectivity and online services. With that, could you provide an overview of your operations, including some of the services you provide and the customers that you serve?
Julie, when I say we are a digital operator, many people ask the question, what does really that mean? It actually is a company which is a consumer and enterprise services company which happens to have a telecom license. And we operate in frontier markets like Ukraine, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, countries with relatively young population, large population, growing populations, and who are severely underserved. And we see this a big growth opportunity for our business because the way we would like to do business is to leverage the capabilities of a telecom operator in terms of acquiring customers at low cost and utilizing the most digitally enabled distribution network to provide services to our customers, services that they deserve, like financial services, entertainment services, healthcare services, education services, and enterprise services. And that's exactly what we are doing. These countries, the five markets that we are in, from Ukraine, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Uzbekistan to Kazakhstan, is home to 500,000,000 people. One out of three is our telecom customers. One out of four is the consumers of our digital services. We have 45 million people on our entertainment platforms, more than 40 million people utilizing our financial services, about 25 million people utilizing our healthcare platforms to actually get an appointment with a doctor, have an online consultation, maybe get some drugs to be shipped to their homes, and finally, have their lab test and maybe interpreted by an AI agent. And this gives us the ability to actually provide additional services in addition to telecom to the same customers, to the same families, and actually have a fraction of a cost. And that's what we do. We are listed in NASDAQ under the ticker name VEON, VEON, and we just announced our Q2 results. 5.9% US dollar growth on top line, 13.2% US dollar growth on EBITDA, and most importantly, our direct digital revenue. So all these services I talked about, financial services, entertainment, healthcare, education, enterprise services, has grown 57.7%. Now, 16.5% of our total revenues, which is about 4 billion a year, comes from digital services. I'm so happy to be in a company, to lead a company, to lead a group of people who has a purpose and clarity in what they are doing.
That's fantastic. And speaking about the stock in your latest quarterly results, VEON, we've said, could provide a unique investment opportunity for global investors that are interested in exposure in some of those growing frontier markets. And your stock has continued to perform well despite some geopolitical uncertainty and macroeconomic conditions. So, what do you think is driving investors' confidence in your stock?
First of all, top three priorities we have, I think, is very well aligned with our investors. It's growth, growth, growth. And frontier markets provides lots of that opportunity. People who are underserved and people who are really hungry for better internet connectivity, better entertainment, better healthcare services, education services, are creating an opportunity for us to innovate technologies that serves them when they need it. You're right. Our markets are, often considered as frontier markets and with very particular risk profile. But as a company, we are specialized in managing these risks. Either if it's floods or earthquakes or wars, we have established a model where we know actually how to serve our customers even in the most difficult conditions. 4 years ago almost, when the war in between Russia and Ukraine erupted, we made a choice, and we made a very early choice to actually, we chose Ukraine, and we exited Russia in a year's time after completing all the regulatory approvals, and we started double investing in Ukraine. And I'm so happy over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be listing Ukraine in NASDAQ. And this will be done through a de-SPAC transaction with Cohen Circle actually the stock ticker CCIR, will be merging with Kyivstar, our love mark in Ukraine, the biggest digital operator of the country. And it will be available for people who would like to participate in fantastic growth opportunities in Ukraine, rebuilding of Ukraine, and for the peace that will reach to the lives of 50 million people around the world in Ukraine and outside of.
That's awesome. And then jumping back to some of your other services there, you mentioned that digital has been a key segment that's led VEON's growth. So can you explain why that's such an important area for the company and how it fits into that overall business plan?
Traditional telecom companies sell number of minutes, number of gigabytes, number of SMSs. We are well beyond that point. We provide meaningful digital services to our customers. And rather than being only relevant to our customers 32 minutes a day, that's the average amount of time people talk on the phone, we would like to be relevant in every single minute in a day. And there are 1,440 minutes. That's why we call our strategy Do 1440, digital operator providing services in every single minute in a day. And that's why we decided to invest in entertainment, in financial services, education, and healthcare, because that's what people do when they connect to internet. And that's why our business is very much built on our capabilities to grow in these particular fields. And as I mentioned you, today, 16.5% of our revenues on top of the telecom comes from digital services. And this portion of our business is growing 57% year on year. Every quarter, the percentage of 16.5 will develop by another percentage points. I actually see our future 3 years from today making more than half of our revenues in digital services. And that is very much in line with the demographic trends that we see in our countries. You can maybe not imagine, but in countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan, 1 out of 2 people don't still have a smartphone. So we have 50 million customers today utilizing feature phones and only utilizing our voice services. As we transform them into digital service customers, the amount of data consumption they do increases by 13 times. The amount of average revenues we can actually create from those customers increases by almost 4 times. And that's really what drives our business organically. And on top of that, with the acquisitions and technologies we develop, we bring the additional growth potential as well. Again, recently we acquired a ride-hailing company in Ukraine called Uklon. And Uklon has almost 70% market share in the ride-hailing and delivery business in Ukraine, serving every single month, 3.5 million people going from point A to point B and delivering great value. Of course, we will take that business and grow this business in other countries that we operate in, from Pakistan to Bangladesh to Uzbekistan to Kazakhstan. Actually, currently in Tashkent, Uklon is proudly serving customers there as well. But you have to see us as a company who has a real passion for providing services to our customers in frontier markets and make sure that they deserve, just like in emerging markets and in developed markets, the services that today's human beings actually desire.
Absolutely. And within that broader digital segment, you also mentioned digital financial services, and then that's been a especially compelling area for VEON. Why is that?
Well, financial inclusion is a fundamental problem. The amount of people who are unbanked is close to 2/3 of the population. People have, 60% of the people have never had utilized a credit card or had a bank account. So by utilizing digital platforms, we can reach to these people at a fraction of a cost. Today, we have more than 22 million customers utilizing our digital financial services in Pakistan. Well, we issue 140,000 nano loans every single day. And these loans, it's not like thousands of dollars, it's $30, $40 loans, so that maybe a taxi driver can fill his tank and work for that day, maybe fix his flat tire, or maybe a housewife would buy some eggs, flour, and sugar and cook some cookies to sell. And that's really increases the chances of people to participate in the economy. And we part of the prosperity creation. And that's why our services are very much geared towards the average people, the people who has been excluded from the financial services for many years. And that's why we are excited about this. We actually, thanks to our digital payment systems, transact close to 12% of Pakistan's GDP. And these numbers shows that Pakistan as a country who is developing is becoming digital as well. And as the Pakistan economy digitizes itself, tax exclusion and tax widening of the tax base happens, and economy develops. And I'm really proud of what our teams in Pakistan and Bangladesh doing in these fields.
That's great. Now, you did mention earlier your digital operator 1440. I also read about the artificial intelligence 1440. So can you explain a little bit more about these strategies and how they're driving growth for VEON?
Sure. Remember I said the traditional telecom companies selling gigabytes and number of minutes? Well, digital services is what creates a unique opportunity. But as what I call augmented intelligence, because I don't think there's anything artificial about artificial intelligence. This is actually augmented skill sets, competencies, experiences of people, individuals, human beings. And we see this opportunity as a chance to develop small language models. The countries we operate in, the people don't talk English or German. They talk Bangla, Urdu, Uzbek, Kazakh, Ukrainian. And we are developing LLM models utilizing these local languages, partnering with the governments, creating the local language and local culture, local values. And through these, we are developing agentic AI solutions so that a doctor in Dhaka can be the best doctor in the world. A teacher in Islamabad can be the best teacher in the world. A farmer in Astana is the best farmer, well equipped with the knowledge, competency, skills that a good, effective farmer should have. And through these, we are actually creating the value proposition one more time. It's not about the digital service this time. In addition to that, it's offering our customers a better version of themselves. A young mother supported by the agentic AI could be a better mother than growing her kids from maybe early ages on. A father could be maybe a better coach. A small business owner can be a wiser man making these decisions. And that's what we are after. That's why we call this AI 1440, which means augmented intelligence in every single minute a day. And that's going to be the next generation of our value propositions for the 160 million customers we have in our countries.
Jumping back to what you mentioned earlier as well about your subsidiary Kievar, one of the leading Ukrainian digital operators, one of the country's most recognizable national brands. You mentioned that they are becoming a public company. So can you expand a bit on the overview of that business?
Look, we have created a campaign in the last 4 years when we committed $1 billion of investments into Ukraine. We said, well, today there might be a war, but the time to invest in Ukraine is now, not tomorrow. Because if we invest today, we are going to build the future of the country. And as part of that, we thought, what could we do to create an environment so that international investors can participate in this? And we said, we're going to take Kyivstar to NASDAQ and make it an international investment opportunity, a chance to participate in rebuilding of Ukraine, into the growth of Ukraine, investments in Ukraine. And since 6 months, we are working together with Cohen Circle to bring Kyivstar into NASDAQ. We are in the last stages of this. Actually, August the 12th, shareholders of Cohen Circle will vote for the merger of CCIR and KYIV, Kiev. And Kiev, hopefully, in a very short time, will be trading in NASDAQ and available for investors to participate in this fantastic opportunity.
That is exciting. And what would you say to investors as to why this could be a compelling opportunity?
Look, first of all, rebuilding of Ukraine is, I think, a very, very purposeful initiative. Every war will end. And Ukrainians did an amazing job in terms of fighting an unfair invasion. And when the war ends, we have a responsibility to build the country. As the biggest enterprise in the country, we feel that we have to lead and pioneer this. And I really believe that there are lots of people, Ukrainians, non-Ukrainians, Americans, Europeans, who would love to participate in that. We have already committed $1 billion to invest, to rebuild the infrastructure, rebuild the digital infrastructure of the country. And I'm so happy that now with Kiev, the stock ticker Kiev being in NASDAQ, everybody can participate.
Speaking of that $1 billion investment there, rebuilding Ukraine's digital infrastructure, it's obviously a very large investment. Can you tell us a bit more about that decision and the expected impact of that?
Look, in an environment like war, keeping a network alive is a daily activity, especially when there are challenges when it comes to energy sustainability. And we have built a mechanism to keep our network up and running 99% of the time. Of course, there are areas where there are landmines. So that's why actually recently we also signed a contract with Starlink so that direct to cell technologies will be available to our customers. We are integrating the terrestrial networks with the satellite platforms. And in a very soon in Q4, our customers in Ukraine, whether they are in a very remote location, in the front line, or in a landmined area, will be able to communicate with their loved ones. And we have been continuously investing in Ukraine with energy generators, with batteries, with continuously upgrading our towers and base stations. And today we are live and active and in service 99% of the time during every single day. And we will continue doing that. Of course, it requires investments. Our revenue to investment ratio in Ukraine is about 30% for now consecutive 3 years. This is a very high amount. But on the other side, our business is still profitable, growing, and we have slightly reached 50% market share, not only in telecoms, but also in healthcare services with Healthy, which serves 24 million Ukrainians in and outside of Ukraine, delivers almost 2.6 million online consultations. With Uklon, which has almost 70% market share in ride-hailing and deliveries, again, serving 3.5 million Ukrainians traveling from point A to point B in very difficult days. So I'm very proud. We have a multi-dimensional business, which we call the digital operator, with healthcare, with education, with financial services, hopefully in the future, not yet, but that's also coming in Ukraine. And this will be the growth opportunity. I think investors will have the chance to participate.
And further on that partnership with Starlink, as you're working to test that direct to cell services, how do we see that partnership further developing in the future for VEON?
Look, whether our partnership with Starlink will be applied to the other countries or we may utilize different platforms, time will tell. But what I'm excited about, whether it's a war zone, you have landmines, you have front lines that you cannot serve the customers in the best way with terrestrial networks, it's a must to integrate the terrestrial networks with the satellite platforms. Or sometimes, in a country like Kazakhstan, it's 2.7 million kilometers squares. And, there is impossible to cover everybody, which is in a huge country with only 20 million population with terrestrial networks. So satellites, again, will be essential. And in Bangladesh, Pakistan, cyclones, earthquakes, floods, sometimes energy on the ground is not enough or not available. And again, satellite platforms will be there, which will be fed with solar power at the sky, at the orbital positions and providing the service. So for me, this is not a question of if, it's a question of when, and when the regulations allow, you will see us providing these services in every place we operate.
Now, to kind of wrap things up here, could you describe some of the other expansion opportunities that you guys are seeing across the digital landscape and how VEON and Kyivstar plan on capitalizing on some of these?
Look, we have a unique company. We have a unified strategy, unified vision, but when it comes to execution, we execute in a very decentralized way. Actually, I more contribute to the countries as my role of a board member in the local opcos than the group CEO role, because it's really important to touch the authentic people who can create these solutions themselves and be proud of them. When the situation is like that, we have opportunities in one country that we are very advanced with financial services. In another one, we are very advanced with healthcare. And I think over the next couple of quarters, you will see us mixing and bringing all the best practices together so that in every single country, we are number one or number two when it comes to financial services, communication services, entertainment, healthcare, education, and enterprise services. And that's going to drive our top line, that's going to drive our cash generation capacity and the value creation for our shareholders.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It sounds like you guys have a lot of really exciting and unique opportunities ahead. So we'll look forward to see how all of this plays out for the company. Thank you so much for your time, Kaan.
Thank you very much, Julie. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Absolutely.